Welcome to the She Hit Refresh podcast, a podcast for women age 30 and up who want to fast track their move abroad. I'm your host, Sophie, rhymes with Peppy, coming to you from Malaga, Spain. I want to give a big thank you to our sponsor this season, International Living, for supporting our podcast and our mission to help women hit refresh. Today's guest is Sophie Blake. She is a NICU travel nurse who grew up in a small town in Iowa and has worked across the U.S. She has found a way to take her nursing career abroad. Yes. And you're probably thinking, like, say what? How? Tell me all the details. Well, listen up. Sophie recently moved to London, of all places, incredible, where she found a way to continue her career as a nurse. And that's exactly what we're going to get into today. So just sit tight. A little bit more about Sophie. She is passionate about travel and shares about her travels on her blog, The Traveling Sofa, that's S-O-P-H-A. And she's also on Instagram. And so you can read about where she talks about her life as a nurse in the U.S. versus the U.K. She's also all about giving helpful, honest travel advice and loves helping others figure out how they can move to the U.K. as a nurse too. So let's dive in. Welcome to the podcast, Sophie.
Thank you so much for having me, Seppi.
So excited to have you on. Before we even jump into the Q&A today, I just want to let our listeners know that we met a little over a year ago in Georgia, the country, at a content creator conference, right?
Yeah, that was cool. I mean, divine intervention, here we are now. So, and we luckily just got together last week too. So that was really nice.
Yeah. Yes. I got to see Sophie in London when I was there. And I remember at the conference in Georgia, we were in Tbilisi, her talking about this idea or this plan to take her nursing career to the UK. And I was like, wait, you can do that? Because I know we have a lot of refreshers out there who are nurses and just can't find a way to get their degree abroad or can't find a country to make this work. So when I heard not only that you were interested in it, but then you actually did it, I was like, we got to have you on the pod. So what kind of nursing background do you have? Well, I mentioned you're in NICU, but I guess if you want to speak to our nurses, let them know what they want to know, a little bit about you and your background.
I've been a nurse for almost 11 years, which I cannot believe I can say that. Every year passes and I'm like, how? My background has all been in the neonatal ICU, and I'm from Iowa, but I have been travel nursing for the last few years. So I've been all over the country, and I knew that I wanted to live abroad. I just wasn't really sure how to go about doing it and also still making money. And I love nursing. So, you know, being able to continue to do that while I am living abroad is just, yeah, I'm so glad that I found the opportunity, honestly.
I guess let's start with what inspired you, or I guess where did that wanderlust to move abroad come from, and why the UK?
I just love traveling in general. I can't think of an exact time when I was like, I really want to move abroad, but it's been a long time coming. I knew it would just be such a cool way to kind of grow myself personally and to be able to travel more no matter where I went. And I ended up choosing the UK mainly because they speak English for one, so I knew that I'd be able to work here easily. And then also just with its proximity to Europe, I'm very excited to be traveling all over Europe while I'm here. So, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of nurses struggle to find work abroad because maybe they want to go to a specific country and they find out, oh, well, with my degree that I got in the US, I can't apply that to a foreign country. And I think on top of that is there's also the language piece, right? Maybe you're somebody who's working in the US as a nurse and you love Spain or Italy. If you're not fluent in those language or you don't have a high level, that's also going to be a blocker on top of trying to figure out how to get into a system when you studied in a foreign country. Yeah. But you found a way to get around this in the UK. Can you tell us a little bit about why and how you're able to continue working as a nurse in a foreign country?
Yeah, so the UK, our license as nurses does, it transfers here. I had to obviously prove that I have the degree and prove my background check. There's a lot of different paperwork and forms to go through during the application process, but your license as a nurse or your degree does transfer to the UK. So it's not always the opposite direction. As like a little side note, they have a different way of doing their nursing degree where they choose the path that they're going, whether it's adult or pediatrics or like mental health, things like that. So for them to come to the US and work is harder. So we kind of have a privilege with that. And I think everyone should take advantage. And they are looking for international nurses. So it is a good time to be looking into something like this for sure.
Wow. I'm sure people listening who are nurses are like, mind blown. There's a way. So let's get into it. This is so exciting. I'm so excited. I'm not a nurse, but I just feel like this is a solution that a lot of our nurses just were not aware of. And this could be a big game changer for a lot of people. So thank you so much for being on here to share this journey.
Of course. Yeah. I don't feel like there's a lot of people talking about it, to be honest. So it is something that people need to start being more aware of if they're wanting to come and work abroad as nurses.
How did you even find out that there was this possibility or opportunity to do this?
Because of my mindset as a travel nurse, I immediately Google, that's the answer. I just Googled for agencies, like agencies that could recruit basically international nurses to the UK. Since I knew I wanted to come to the UK, I think I just Googled like US nurses, US travel nursing in the UK, something like that. And a few different things popped up. It's not like the US where we have literally hundreds of agencies for travel nurses. There were only like 3 or 4 that popped up. And one of them that I clicked wasn't even hiring really at the time. And then, yeah, I ended up just filling out a form. Someone reached out to me and then that kind of got the ball rolling. So it wasn't a difficult process to get started, I guess. So the agency wasn't like a full application. It was kind of just a general form to fill out like basic information so they could reach out to you.
Got it. Okay. And does this agency have a name? Is this an agency that someone who's listening could go to and apply? Are there multiple agencies that do this?
Yeah, there are multiple. The one that I ended up reaching out to is Continental Nurses. And the person I got connected with is from Reach Out Medical. So I'm not sure if they're like, some of them are kind of in cahoots or work together or how that is. I've never really asked anyone about that, but someone reached out to me within a few days saying, hey, we got your interest form and we'd love to help you kind of move forward with this.
Incredible. How did you feel when you got that response so quickly that they were interested?
Yeah, I mean, I was like pretty surprised, to be honest, that they got back to me so fast because at the time I was kind of just putting feelers out. I don't know when I want to move. I don't know about the process for getting licensed. And so when they were like, hey, we're ready to help. And I'm like, I don't know what I want to do right now. But it was good. It was just that first kind of step in this direction that I'm now in. So
then you let them know you're interested. They reached out to you. And then what were the next steps of the process?
They helped me kind of learn how to apply to the NMC, which is the Nurse Midwifery Council, which is like, it's like their nursing board here. The midwives also go through them. And you basically are applying to them to get your UK nursing license. So while our degree transfers here, we still have to get licensed. So that's where the process comes into play.
What was that process then? You said there was a lot of paperwork involved. Tell us a little bit of what people can expect.
So initially, you're starting your application with the NMC, and that's you paying a fee. Of course, it's always about money, as we all know in the nursing realm, because even when you're just working as a nurse in the US, you have to renew your license every couple years. So you pay the fee for the application, and then it starts asking you for paperwork like your degree, proof that you can, speak English. Sometimes you have to take an exam for the English also for anyone who's not having English as their first language. It's just basically proving that you have a nursing degree and are licensed and in good standing with the nursing board. So like the nurses out there might know what I'm talking about. If you have the nurses verification NURYS, that shows that you're in good standings with whatever board of nursing that you have a license with. So I used that to prove that I was still working as a nurse and in good standing with the board.
And then, so after you get all that information, you submit it. What is the next step? Is it a waiting game or is there a lot of back and forth?
It's a lot of waiting. You have to wait for the NMC to like approve your initial application. And that can take a month, 2 months. It just depends on when they're kind of getting to it. And then sometimes they need more information. So then you have to submit stuff and then you wait until they can approve that. It is a very long process. I would say if you're wanting to move abroad to England to work as a nurse or in the UK, not just England, I would give yourself about a year for this whole process as a general rule. So the waiting game, and then once that is approved, you will be sent an email where you can take the first exam that you have to take to get licensed, which you can do in the US at any of the Pearson testing sites, just like you did when you took NCLEX. So they send you a link, you sign up, you take that exam. If you pass it, great. Then you move on to the next step.
Yeah, I was going to ask if there were any exams that people need to take, but I guess that covers that.
There's another one too. So that's the first one.
Oh, that's the first one. Does the next one come before or after you are accepted?
Technically, you can take the second one before the first one, but I would recommend just taking the CBT. It's a computer-based test, which is the one at the Pearson site. Just do that one first, because if you don't pass that one, then you're going to have to retake it. You know, it's different. The OSCE, the second test, you have to come to the UK to take. So it's just better to do that when you're getting closer to moving.
Now, when you do that test, the OSCE, is that what you called it? Do you already have a visa? Is it, I'm trying to understand, where does the visa process come in? It sounds like, there's a lot of paperwork involved in this process.
There is. I can only speak to my experience, because if you don't have a job like I had, who were supporting me through all of this, then I don't know how the visa process and getting your exam and all of that stuff goes. So I can only speak to my experience. So after doing the CBT, I was in touch with my recruiting agency and I was like, I'm ready, in the next few months, I'd like to be over there. My last resort goal was January 2025 and I got here December 2024. So this has been over 2 years of me doing this whole thing. It doesn't have to take that long. This is mostly because I didn't know for sure what I wanted to do or when I wanted to come. So, but backtracking a little bit. So my agency got me an interview. I had a Zoom interview. I got the job, and then the hospital reached out to me, set up everything, set up my OSCE, set up the training for the OSCE, which you don't have to have, but I would highly recommend because it's a very specific exam. And then they also set up my whole visa process. So they sent me the paperwork and everything that I needed to fill out for the visa. They sponsored my visa, and then that all went from there.
So I think I got it. So then you apply, then you do some chatting with them, you submit all your information, then you may be accepted or approved. Is that right? That means you got the job. If you're approved or accepted, they're like, we want you and we have a role for you.
Yeah, with the interview, the interview process is similar to anything you would do here, right? You get an interview, you interview, and then they let you know if you get the job.
Got it.
So It was the same. It was just they were contacting with the agency who told me that I got the job.
That makes sense. After you got the job, then people you were working with helped with the visa process.
Yeah, basically their HR was like, here's all the things you need to do. More paperwork.
Fabulous. Okay. So this process definitely takes patience, but it is a possibility for people. I love this. Okay.
Yeah.
So then what kind of visa are you on, and how long is your contract, or how long can you be in the UK working now that you're there?
My visa, it's a skilled workers visa. So it's good for 3 years. My contract with the hospital that I'm currently at I signed a 2-year contract. I figured 2 years is a good amount of time. 1 year's not long enough to be here. 2 years is good. And then we'll see. Since my visa is good for 3, I can always extend that and stay as long as I'd like, really. My job's training me, so I can't imagine if I'm like, hey, can I get another 3-year visa? I can't imagine that they'd be like, no. So at this point, I think I'm in a good place to be here longer if I'd like.
So that is so cool. So you could potentially then stay longer than the 2 years that you have your contract for, and even the 3 years that you have your visa for, because if they want to keep you and you want to stay, then that's a possibility.
Yeah, definitely. Honestly, the only requirement I have is for the 2 years at this job. And even if for some reason I was like, I hate it or I can't stay or whatever, I would just have to pay back the fees that they've paid for, like my OSCE flight reimbursement, different things that they've helped pay for to help my move be a little bit smoother. I guess I could, after the 2 years, I could stay, but switch jobs if I wanted to. So, right now I work for a private hospital. I could move to the NHS or something if I wanted to. I would just have to make sure that they can sponsor the visa as well, because I already have the license. So that whole process will be out of the way.
Oh, very cool. Okay, so that's very interesting then. So you're working at a private hospital. Can you just let people know what's a little bit different about that? I mean, you're not working in the public healthcare system then in the UK,
Yes.
which is the NHS that you mentioned.
Yeah, the NHS is the free healthcare, which is great. Honestly, a lot of people have good things to say about it. Of course, there's things wrong with everything. Not everyone is so positive about the NHS, but ultimately, from the nurses' standpoint, they have really great training. It is like the highest end of training and education for nurses here. So definitely intrigued to move in that direction at some point while I'm here, probably. But right now I'm working private, which is a paid for hospital. So if you're going to come to that hospital, you're paying to get treated or you have insurance, similar to the US, but still less expensive. By far.
Well, how is your role similar or different from your nursing jobs in the US?
This has been probably the hardest shift for me because as a travel nurse, I'm used to moving, going places I don't know anyone, I don't know where things are, all that stuff. So that part was like a pretty easy transition for me coming here. But the job, it's like the littlest things that you're just like, wait, we do that? Wait, oh, you don't do that? I'll just name a few. For one, nurses don't draw blood or put in IVs, which is something that we do all the time, at least in the NICU. From my 10 years of experience, that's something I would do all the time, every day. We don't have respiratory therapists here. So if I need a ventilator set up for a patient that's coming or any kind of oxygen support or anything, that's my job. I'm setting the ventilator up. I'm putting whatever machine that we need for it. That's me. That's my job. So I'm like, okay, I have to learn all of that, which at first I was kind of frustrated with, but really it is making me a better nurse because I know and understand more of that side of things now. However, it is helpful when you have extra hands who are like the professionals on the airway, when you have a really sick patient. So I do miss our RTs sometimes. And then the other big one that takes up like half of my day is pharmacy. So in the NICU, at least, our pharmacy would draw up and send all of our medications. So if I had, let's say, for example, a morphine drip, like a big syringe that's running continuously, that would be drawn up and sent up with a label and a scanner and things for Epic. And I would just check it with someone, scan it, it'd be in the computer and hang it. That would be my day. Here, if I'm like, okay, I need a morphine drip, the last one was changed at 3:00, so I need to put the new one on. I have to get the ampules of morphine, the little glass ampules. I just cannot. Sometimes it just feels so old school. And do all the math, draw it up, make sure it's in the right solution, all of that. Again, this takes up a lot of my time, but on the flip side, I know exactly what my patient's getting because I'm the one that mixed it and hung it. So It's just a time management thing that I'm like still kind of trying to adjust to. But those would be my big three that have been the hardest thing to deal with the differences. But overall, the practice in general, I'd say is the same. Like you're still giving the same care to your patients.
Well, let's talk about schedule then. Is your schedule different? Because I know, well, I think there's a nursing shortage around the world, but nurses in the U.S. are there's the shortage, a lot of patients, a lot of work, not enough hands on deck, and you guys are doing a lot. So how is your schedule and the patient load the same or different in the UK?
It's similar. So scheduling, very similar. I work 12-hour shifts. I usually do 3 days a week. Once a week, they require 4 days. So I do 13 shifts a month. As far as like shifts work, everyone rotates. So you do days and nights. So sometimes that can be a little bit exhausting. Not everywhere in the US does that anymore. The only time I've ever rotated at a job was my very first nursing job that I was working in Iowa. So I don't know how many people are doing that. A lot of times it's just you work days or you work nights. I'd rather rotate than be on straight nights personally, but that's just, I guess, preference. And then ratios and things like that, it's a little different being in the private hospital. We're pretty cush, I will say. I don't know how else to say that. We're comfortable. We're one-on-one. So I work in the PICU here, pediatric ICU, which has been also a change for me, but it's okay. I'm learning. And the ratios are always 1-to-1. So no matter what patient I have one patient. I know in the NHS, it's not like that. I've had people telling me horror stories about their ratios in the NHS because they have a shortage and they need people to work. The thing is, I know the NHS is like, some of them are on like hiring freezes right now. So you can't even get a job there, even though I know they need nurses. I think it's just financially, I don't know. They're trying to figure out how to do it all.
Got it. Okay. I'm sure the nurses listening have so many questions. This is so much great information here. What has surprised you the most about working in healthcare in the UK? And I know you're very early in your journey. Just want to stress to people like we are recording this in April and you just moved there in January. So just a little over 3 months ago. But what have you found was surprising so far?
Surprising. I mean, I have to go back to just how the nurses' roles in different ways. Like they don't have as much support staff, I feel like. It's hard because people keep being like, oh, nurses in the US do so much more, but I'm not really understanding where they got that because I don't think it's true. I mean, it just depends. Like we're drawing labs and doing our IVs over there. Here, the doctors do that. So that's one thing that we do that they don't. But then they're doing all the respiratory stuff and we don't. So it's 1-1. It might balance out. It just, to me, the biggest surprises have been things like that at work where they're like, oh yeah, that's our job. And I'm like, what? Also, as a side note on this, the language, because I'm like, oh, they speak English fine. And I know British English can be a little different than American English, but my first couple shifts at work, I was like, I have no idea what the doctor just said at all. So sometimes some days, even still, I'm like, what is he talking about? You know, so just something to be aware of and be prepared for if you come.
Good advice there. Well, then I'm wondering, are you the only American at this private hospital?
I am on my unit. I don't know about the whole hospital. I doubt on the whole hospital, but yeah, I'm the only one working on my unit that's from the US, and the people I work with cannot believe that I'm here.
Because they're like, what is someone from the US doing working here in a private hospital?
Yeah, well, they're just like, why would you come to the UK? Like, a lot of people are trying to go to the US to work, and they don't have the whole picture of everything either, right? The grass is greener, right? It's just...
Yeah, I imagine a lot of people think, being a nurse in the US, your salary what is attractive is that your salary is probably a lot higher there.
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, I will say I did not come to the UK for the pay. That is not, if that's what you're thinking, don't come if that's your reason. It gets me by to live here, but I'm definitely not going to be saving money. And the US does pay better, but everything costs more. So I don't know for sure that you're really making a ton more money. As a travel nurse, different story. I did that and I definitely saved money doing that, but it just depends on your situation. Every state pays differently.
Let's talk about life in London. How has been your experience, settling there for the past few months?
Oh my gosh, I love London. I first came here in 2022 and I was like, oh my gosh, this place is so good. It's just so cool. If you've never been to the UK, there's obviously just so much history and old things here. So it's nothing like walking around in the US. And then having Europe right here at your fingertips. Like I flew to France a couple weeks ago for 35 pounds round trip. Yeah, London is great. It can be expensive, certain things. But I'm like looking out my window right now and I'm just like, I'm so happy being here. Yeah, there's just a lot, always something to do, always somewhere to go.
Did you ask if you place in London?
I knew I wanted to be in London, so I did tell them, like, I'm happy to be in London. And she was like, great, because that's where most of our jobs are. So I think because London is obviously the biggest city in the UK by far, there probably is the most opportunity here. But the UK is Scotland, Northern Ireland, Wales, and England, of course. So there are other places you can go. I don't feel like you have to come to London, but you're going to have a higher probability of finding something here because there's more hospitals.
There's challenges when you move to a new place. Is there anything that's challenging that you've faced so far about living there?
Yeah, so a couple of things. I mean, I would say firstly, being away from family is never an easy thing, and the time changes make that even harder. It is a challenge, and it's just something you kind of have to be intentional with, like when can we talk, schedule a time, things like that. And just being prepared that you probably are going to miss out on big moments or family members being sick or, anything like that. I will say my hospital, I think, is a lot more understanding, or it does depend on where I've worked in the past in the US, but I think it would be a lot easier for me to say, hey, I really need to go home right now. And they would be like, okay, we'll figure this out. The work-life balance is 10 out of 10. Every time I've asked for time off, it's been approved. No problem at all as a brand new nurse. So there's nothing about seniority and like, no, you get the last pick. Like that has to be one of my favorite things about working here already. And then backtracking a little bit to your initial question was the difficulties. So again, with the licensing. So I am right now dealing with the NMC not accepting the background check that I had done. For whatever reason, it was accepted by the visa people, but the NMC is like, no, we need more information about where this came from and all this stuff. It's from the FBI. I don't know what else they want. I'm very frustrated because I should have my PIN by now and I should be working by myself, not orienting still, but I can't because I'm not a legal nurse. So I'm still waiting for background results from the FBI, and then I have to go and get them checked by the NMC. So it could be weeks still before I have my like official nursing PIN, which is what they call it, a PIN as the license. And so that has been really one of my biggest challenges since being here right now.
Yeah, you had mentioned that before because that also affects your pay, right? You're not getting paid as a licensed nurse either.
I'm being paid. Yeah, right now I'm basically like a nursing aide. Even though I'm doing nursing role things so I can practice, I can't sign charts, I can't sign meds, I can give the medications, but someone has to be watching me and they have to be double checked with the nurse that I'm with and someone else. Like it's very intense and it makes it hard to get things done. So yeah, and then I'm being paid at a lower wage until that gets approved and done.
Wishing you luck with that. But, it's always patience, right? Patience is the biggest lesson that we learn or have to be learned over and over when we move abroad.
And yeah, just keeping in mind that is a possibility if you come over because the NMC can be sticklers.
Yes. And remind us again, what is NMC? Who is that? What does that stand for?
It's the Nurse Midwifery Council, and they're basically the board of nursing.
We are getting towards the end here of the podcast, but I know we have women listening. Their ears have perked up and they're like, I'm interested in this. So what advice do you have for other nurses in the US who are thinking about moving abroad and possibly taking the same path that you have?
I would say kind of come up with a timeline, at least something kind of in your head. Then I would start looking into the application process as soon as possible. And then something that I did, and I would like to do a little like shout out to Anyway Word. It's Rachel. I can't think of her last name right now. I joined her course that she has for nurses moving to the UK, and I just think it was really helpful because it went through everything in depth and step to step. And she talks a lot about certain paperwork expiring, which is really important. And the NMC doesn't tell you about that on their website. So it's stuff that there's no way for you to know unless you were to chat with her. So I would highly recommend, if you're really thinking about it, looking into her and maybe reaching out and seeing if she can help you.
Got it. And she's from the US, that she made her move.
She is. Yep, she's from the US and she's been here for 7 years. Yep.
Yeah, we'll share her info. And what was the agency you used again? We can drop their info too in the show notes.
Reach Out Medical.
Fabulous. All right. Well, then where can people connect with you? Because I also feel like a lot of listeners who are nurses are going to be excited to reach out and maybe even ask you some questions. So where can we find you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to talk to people and go through things a little bit more in depth as well. I'm on Instagram. That's probably my main platform. It's the Traveling Sofa, SOPHA. Yeah, we can schedule a time to chat, or, you can always email me too. It's thetravelingsofa@gmail.com.
Fabulous. Yeah, we'll add that all to the show notes. All right, Sophie, we did it. I am so excited to get this episode out there. So I want to thank you so much for sharing about your journey, which a lot of people just don't know about this path. And I think it's going to create some possibilities for people who didn't know that there's a way.
Yeah, I'm so glad. I'm happy to share, and I'm so glad that we were able to do this.
Thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope you enjoyed this episode and leave feeling like a move abroad is even more possible for you. If you're happy with what you saw, I want to invite you to subscribe to my channel, like this video, and leave a question or comment because I would love to hear from you. If you're ready to take action on your dream to move abroad, be sure to grab my Visa Guide to Europe. It's your roadmap to over 50 viable visa options in 19 countries. You can grab the link below in the show notes. And don't forget to get on the wait list for my next Move Abroad After 30 Masterclass, a masterclass for women age 30 and up, which is a step-by-step training to help you fast-track your move abroad. And grab the link in the show notes as well. And last but not least, a huge shout out to our sponsor, International Living. Thank you so much for making this season possible. Until next time, ciao for now.